Here we have a SAT math problem. Okay, let's go to the question. A group of men agreed to share equally the cost of a hunting trip, which they estimated to be $720. At the last minute, two of the men were unable to go, with the result that each of the others had to pay an additional $12. How many men actually went on the hunting trip? Okay, now let me assume X as the number of men. That is a number of men who plan to go for the hunting trip. Okay, let me write it over here. But in the last minute, two of the men were unable to go. The number of men went on the hunting trip is x negative 2. So here we have to find the value of x. Once we get the value of x, we have to plug in the value of x into this expression to find the number of men actually went on the hunting trip. Okay, here we know that the estimated cost is $720, the total cost. And if X number of men had gone on the hunting trip, then the share of each person is, we have to divide the total cost by the number of men, that is 720 over X. So this is a share for each person if X number of men had gone for the hunting trip. But only X negative 2 men went on the hunting trip. In that case, the share of each person, so again we have to divide the total cost by the number of men, X negative 2. Okay, according to the given information, at the last minute, when two of the men were unable to go, the share of each person is increased by $12. Okay, here already we know that this is the share of each person when X number of men went on the hunting trip, and this is the share of each person when X negative 2 number of men went on hunting trip. So that is in this case, at the last minute, two of the men were unable to go. So clearly, the share of each person over here is $12 more than the share of each person over here. For example, if I assume the value of this one is 20, then the value of this one will be 32. That is, this is 12 more than this. Okay, if I want to balance the equation over here, either I have to add 12 to this one or I have to subtract 12 from this one. Okay, here, let me subtract 12 from this one. Then we get 20 on the left side, 32 negative 12. We get 20 on the right side, the equation is balanced. Okay, now if I want to balance this equation, the same logic, what we have discussed over here, we have to apply. That is, we have to add 12 to this one or we have to subtract 12 from this one. Okay, now let me subtract 12 from this one. Okay, now in this equation, we have to solve for x. Okay, let me continue. 720 over x equals to, here it's an integer and a fraction. We do subtraction between a fraction and an integer. Whenever I want to do addition or subtraction between a fraction and an integer, I have to multiply the integer by the denominator of the fraction. Once I'm done with this multiplication, I can take this x negative 2 as a common denominator. Okay, now let me do it. That is 720. We can take this negative sign. Let's multiply this integer by this denominator. Then we get 12 times x negative 2. Now we can take this x negative 2 as a common denominator. Okay, here let's do some more simplification. That is 720 over x equals to 720. We can distribute this negative 12 to this x and negative 2. Then I'm getting negative 12x. Negative 12 times negative 2 is a positive 24 divided by x negative 2. Okay, here 720 divided by x equals to, now we can combine this 720 and positive 24. I'm getting 744 negative 12x divided by x negative 2. Okay, now we can do cross multiplication. Then we have to multiply this numerator 720 by this x negative 2. Then I'm getting 720 times x negative 2. And here this numerator has to be multiplied by this denominator. Then I'm getting x times 744 negative 12x. Okay, here now we can distribute this 720 to this x and negative 2. Then I'm getting 720x negative 1440. Okay, here we can distribute this x to this 744. Then I'm getting 744x. When I distribute this x to this negative 12x, I'm getting negative 12x square. Okay, here let's subtract 744x from both sides. Let me do it. And also let me add 12x square to both sides of this equation. It is a positive 12x square. Okay, here this negative value, positive value will cancel. Positive value, negative value will cancel. Then I'm getting 12x square. Okay, here when I combine this positive 720x and negative 744x, I am getting negative 24x negative 1440 equals to 0. Here we got a quadratic equation in standard form, and also when I consider all the terms of this quadratic equation, all of them are multiples of 12. So we can divide each term of this quadratic equation by 12 to make the numbers, the coefficients and the constant term smaller. Okay, let me divide each term by 12. When I do so, this 12 will cancel out. 12 goes into 12 one times, 12 goes into 24 two times. Here 12 goes into 12 one times, 12 goes into 144 12 times, and we can take this 0 over here. and we get, let me continue over here, then x square and negative 2x and negative 1 and 20. On the right side, when I divide 0 by 12, I'm still getting 0. Okay, here we have a quadratic equation in standard form. I think we can solve this quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, for that we have to multiply this constant of negative 1 and 20 by the coefficient of x square 1. When I multiply this 1 and negative 1 and 20, I'm getting negative 1 and 20. Okay, here I have to get two factors so that the product of these two factors equals to negative 1 and 20, and the sum of the two factors equals to the coefficient of x negative 2. I think negative 12 and positive 10 will work. When I multiply them, I'm getting negative 1 and 20. When I add them, I'm getting negative 2, that is the coefficient of x. Further, I have to divide both these factors by the coefficient of x square, that is 1. Even when I divide them by 1, still I'm getting negative 12 and positive 10 over here. Now, to get the two values of x of this quadratic equation, we have to change the signs of these two factors over here. Okay, now to get the first value of x, we have to change the sign of the first factor over here. It's negative. When I change the sign, I'm getting positive 12. Okay, here to get the second value of x, I have to change the sign over here. That is, it's already positive. When I change the sign, it's negative. That is, I'm getting negative 10. Okay, here I got two values for x, positive 12 and negative 10. Actually, x represents the number of men who plan to go for the hunting trip. So the number of men cannot be negative. So we can reject the negative value of x. We can consider the positive value of x. And according to the question, we have to find how many men actually went on the hunting trip. So x represents the number of men who plan to go for hunting trip, but the number of men actually went on the hunting trip is x negative 2, because at the last minute, two of the men were unable to go. So this expression gives the number of men actually went on the hunting trip. So now what we have to do is we have to plug in this value 12 for x over here. Then I'm getting 12 negative 2, that is equal to 10. So therefore 10 men actually went on the hunting trip. We find this 10 in answer choice A. The correct answer choice for this question is A.